How's it going, everybody? This is Anthony Cordova from Cordova Speed and Custom. So today what I got going on, I got the 65 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, which in the last video I showed you how to do some body work on. So for this car, the body work is all done. I still have to prep the metal for primer, mask a few areas. As you can see, it's already partially masked up, so I got to mask some areas. So I'm going to show you how to do that and how to mix the primer properly, what to use. And so I hope you like this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll catch you on the rebound when we come back and start working on this thing. So I kind of wanted to show you before we get started on masking this car, what you're gonna need for actually masking it. So that's the first step to doing this car. So the things that you're gonna need, I have a squeeze container of some lacquer thinner here, or I have gun cleaner in this one. I have some towels to wipe down the areas you're gonna mask. I have some 1.5" tape. This one's by American Tape. And I have some 3/4 inch tape as well. And I'll turn this camera on. You can see that I have my masking machine all set up as well. On the masking machine, I have a roll of 18-inch paper with the tape roll set up, so it'll automatically run the tape on the paper whenever you're pulling the paper. You can actually do it by hand, or like lay the paper out and then lay the tape up, but it's a lot faster this way. These things are cheap you can get them at Harbor Freight or online or wherever. So if you're going to be doing this job quite often, I would suggest getting something, or even a hand masker at like Home Depot or whatever. I got a few of those actually. When I'm doing work outside the shop, I take those with me. They're a little bit more mobile. So we'll come back. I'll get started on masking this thing. Hey everybody, I just got back on this car. So I wanted to kind of show you essentially what I've done here is just basically cover the inside or the outside edge or the inside edge of the jamb of the panels that I want to primer. So what I'm doing is I'm not lining, running a line, which when I mean lining is like running like a pre-line on the edge. I mean, you can do that, but it's kind of a waste of time and a waste of tape. This thing doesn't have to be perfect when you're spraying primer. All you have to do is basically use the tape that's on the paper to run a line right to the edge of the panel that you want to cover. So, and also what I use my 1.5", it's a lot easier. And on this thing, I don't know, it's got hydraulics on it, so there's a little bit of like some fluid or something it's not letting the tape kind of stick to the inside. So what I did is I wiped it down an extra time with some thinner and a towel, and I'm just running, like I said, running the outside edge. And then also I use the 1/2" tape to kind of just tape everything down. And then also you want to join all the pieces of paper that you can use 1.5", but it's a lot easier to just rip off a piece of 1.5" and just kind of like join everything together. Also, I want to show you a little trick. So when you're it's just basic stuff, but when you're cutting your tape, just grab the edge with your finger and just rip it. I mean, it's sometimes you can be kind of clumsy with the tape if you're not used to it, but that's just a pretty much general rule of thumb. Also, when you're running your tape along the edge, just your tape, not with your paper on it, but like if you're going to line this area right here, the easy way to just kind of rip off your tape without using a razor blade or whatever is just kind of hold the edge, hold it right, your finger right on the edge, and just pull down, and it'll just rip it right off. Those are just basic little tricks that you can use to kind of speed up the process. Also, I keep a razor blade handy, like in my ear, a single edge razor blade. Make sure these are new. And around these hinges, what I do is I just basically cut around I cut a slit in the paper, and then kind of just drag the paper around and just tape that. You can see right here, I just tape that edge right there, and then just kind of let the paper hang over, so you're not doing multiple pieces or whatever. Now I'll finish this area right here, and I think we're pretty much done with this part, and then I'll move on to the prepping of the metal. So this is just a basic idea of how you want it to look when you're masking for primer. Every panel every door jamb, every hood jamb on the inside should look pretty similar to this. I mean, with possibly smaller paper, but if you got 18-inch, it'll work. That's all I had today, so that's what I'm using. So I was going to go on directly to metal prepping, but I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I didn't even give them any sort of technique or whatever for actually laying the tape on the edge. So all you do basically is what you want to do is attach your tape where you first want it, or where you want it to begin with. And then I'm right-handed and use my left for some reason. I'm more comfortable doing that. So what I do is I just kind of hold the paper over here in the tape, and then just kind of eyeball it and watch where watch where you want your watch ahead of where you're taping it, and just align it and just kind of smoothly or whatever, or gently kind of just press down to start with, and just run it down the side. Just kind of align, like I said, align it with your eyeball, or ahead of where you want it taped, and then just kind of push down on it, or glide down the edge of it. That's it. It's pretty simple. And then, like I said, just run your tape and then tape it to the inside of wherever whatever panel you're taping it to, so it doesn't hang down. So I kind of just wanted to say one more thing before we get going on doing the metal prep. So I close this. This got a bungee cord holding it. There's no latch in there, but so when you close these panels, you want to go around, make sure that you go around any tape like this over here that's kind of hanging over the edge. Just make sure it's not hanging over. This is kind of just sticking up in the air there, but just make sure that that's not hanging over onto the parts that you want to primer. So, and also the paper can get kind of bunched up in the jams or whatever. So what you want to do is go around with a paint stick later on and just make sure that any paper that's kind of sticking out, just kind of stuff it down with a paint stick or whatever you can fit in there. Also, on another note, I'm not wearing gloves, if you can see that or you notice that, simply because when you're wearing gloves and you're using the tape, the adhesive will actually rip the gloves, so it's kind of useless, pointless. So be very mindful of, when you're working on these cars, when they're bare metal like this, be very mindful of where you're sticking your hands. You see, I got a towel. I was using it to push the trunk down while I connected the bungee cord to the frame of the car. But like I said, I mean, the last thing you want to do is do all this hard work and then have something like a crack or a bubble later on down the road. I actually give warranties on these jobs, or try to warranty these jobs. When I take them down to bare metal like this. And I mean, if you get some contamination under the primer of this thing, or under some substrate that you paint over it or apply over it, you're going to get some kind of reaction later on down the road. The sun's going to hit it or whatever. I can't stress enough to be very, very mindful of where you're putting your hands on these cars. So other than that, I think I've covered the masking part. I'm going to move on to the metal prep, and I'll see you in the next video. I'll see you in the next segment of the video. What I got going on now is I'm going around the whole car, panel by panel, and I already did the DA, so direct dual action sander, on the whole thing. I went over the whole thing. I kind of lightly touched the bodywork. Some people say you don't want to go over the bodywork, but if you're not experienced and your bodywork's already your bodywork is almost done, you probably definitely don't want to go over the bodywork if you're not experienced with the machine sander. So just stay on the metal. But now what I'm doing is I'm going around the whole thing by hand. I'm just kind of lightly scuffing over the bodywork with 180, and I'm getting any leftover handprints, any leftover dirt or whatever it's on the, and also I'm going to give it a once over on the metal as well. The last step after that would be a red Scotch-Brite, same thing, kind of just going over and double checking everything and kind of just scuffing up everything. And then when I do this, actually, I'll go panel by panel. So make sure that you check every panel. Don't just try to do the whole car at once. Go panel by panel and double check everything. Double check any oxidation on the metal. Double check the bodywork with 180, and then same thing with the Scotch-Brite. After we're done with that, we'll blow it off. We'll wipe it down with some kind of a cleaner, and then I'll go ahead and I'll start spraying primer. So I'll see you in the next segment. So I'm back with the final wipe down of this car. We're about to spray primer on it. It's all prepped and ready to go. The only thing left to do is wipe it down. So what I got mixed in this bottle, this is an old wire wheel cleaner bottle that was empty, and I put some. What I mixed in here was I got alcohol and a little bit of water and a little bit of some dish soap in here. I use Dawn, I think Dawn's in here, and just a little bit of water and dish soap. And what I'm doing now is I just spray it on, and do sections at a time so it's not drying up on you, especially if it's hot. And then I wipe it with one towel, or like 3 or 4 towels actually, and then use that one. And then use a dry one with 3 or 4 towels as well to wipe all the residue away. Make sure you wipe it until it's all the way completely dry. That way you know 100% that there's no residue left on the panel. So that's it pretty much. I said wipe it down. We'll blow it off one last time, and then we'll start putting primer on. Hey everybody, so I'm back. So I'm gonna show you what we're gonna use, or what I'm gonna use on this car to get it primed today. So the first thing I'm gonna put down is a 2K sealer. So what that is essentially is gonna do is it's gonna make the polyester. I'm using polyester primer. All this stuff is by PCL. The sealer, what it's going to do is essentially bond the polyester primer to the metal. So I'll spray this on all the metal, the areas that are exposed with bare metal. I'm going to use this PCL 2K sealer. And that mixes 4 parts to 1 part activator. And then what I'm going to do after that is go over it with this PCL poly primer. So this is like a high fill. It's a high build, almost like a sprayable filler by PCL. It's a polyester. So all the body fillers and the catalyzed putties or things like that are made with polyester. So it's kind of like I said before, it's kind of like a sprayable filler. So we can cover any scratches or any little imperfections that are going to be they could come back, and that stuff gets hard as a rock. It's all catalyzed. This stuff is, you use MEKP, which is like a liquid hardener, like for fiberglass. And what I did on that, if you can see, I marked, when you hold it upside down, I marked like quarters. So what I'll do is I'll put the first quarter in for the actual so there's 4 quarts in a gallon. What I'll do is I marked off, and for every quarter I add the hardener per quart on that, on the hardener. And then I'll put a little bit of urethane reducer in that to kind of thin it down a little bit, and and also just slow it down a little bit. That stuff dries really fast, so you don't want to mix the whole thing at once. The sealer has about probably a 2-hour pot life, so you can mix that and leave it in the gun for a while. But this polyester primer dries really fast, so you don't want to mix it all at once because it'll get hard in the gun. It'll gel up. So make sure that you mix that only like in between coats. So like mix a quart, put a quart on, then come back and mix another quart, and then put your next quart on. That way it's not getting hard in your gun. And probably about halfway point through this thing, for this thing I'm using my Sharp Finex gun. It's a 1.5 or 1.4 tip, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% positive. I bought this thing a long time ago. So with a PPS adapter, and I'm using PPS cups with the measuring stick. So what I'm going to do probably halfway point through is going to go ahead and run some thinner through the guns, just that way it's not clogging up the tip with primer. This primer is pretty thick and it gets hard pretty fast. So like I said, halfway point through the job, I'll probably go ahead and clean out the gun one time and then continue spraying after that again. So when we come back, I'll set the camera up so you can see the hood, and I'll actually show you how to apply the sealer first and then the primer after that. So I'll see you in the next segment. So I'm about ready to spray some sealer on this, get the metal covered. One other thing I wanted to say is, I don't know if you didn't see my last video, go to my last video and you'll see in that video, or earlier when I was sanding this, I was using a particulate respirator, and that's not sufficient enough for doing for spraying paint. You need an organic, and actually organic, I think, charcoal activated filter, respirator filters for doing paint. You don't want to jeopardize your health for doing bodywork and paint. So what I'm going to do now is hook up my gun. I got almost a full cup of sealer in here. Adjust your air pressure. These every gun's different, but what you want at the tip is about 10 pounds of pressure. I'm going to adjust this to about 29 pounds of pressure when you squeeze the trigger. And I'm going to open the this is the material right here. This is for your material, and this is for your fan. So keep the nozzle straight or horizontal, and then open for primer. You want to open the material. This is your air to material, and you want to open your material all the way as much as it'll pull back. And then the fan, I'm gonna put it not all the way because you don't want to work that hard, but I'm gonna put it I don't know, about, if you want to do a test panel, you can do, the best way to do a test panel is put a big piece of paper on the wall and then go about 6 inches back, and then just do a full pull, and then just look and kind of measure. You want about a 6 inch wide fan about 6 inches back. So that's a good way to do I kind of just gonna eyeball it because I've been doing it forever, but if you want to do actual test panel, like I said, 6 inches back from the wall, put a big piece of paper so you're not getting overspray on your wall, and then do a full pull, and 6 inches back and 6 inches wide is about what you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my mask on. I'm gonna get this area covered. The other thing I was gonna actually say before I do that is when you're spraying your primer, you're gonna see that I'm letting off the trigger. I'll pull the trigger down when I'm putting my coat on, and then when I get to the end where I'm gonna fan out, I let go of my trigger. So it's kind of an action you have to kind of get used to. So I mean, you can kind of just fan out, but you don't want to just straight and then stop. You're gonna leave like big puddles of primer right there. So you'll kind of see, like, I actually fan out, I think. So you'll see. We'll see right now. But anyways, you do want to kind of, when you get to where you're gonna stop, fan out or let go of the trigger and fan out. So I'm gonna get going. So I'm ready to mix up my primer. It's all stirred. Make sure there's no chunks on the bottom. This one I had it. Another little tip: if you buy some primer, say I don't know when you start this job, month or whatever. So if the primer's sitting around for a while, all the solids will sink to the bottom. So if you don't have a shaker, what I did is go to the paint store where you bought it or wherever, if you have a friend with a shaker, and put this thing on the shaker for about 15 minutes. That way it's all thoroughly mixed. Another way you can do it is just scrape from the bottom and kind of just keep stirring and stirring and stirring until it's all mixed together. But another nifty little tool that I got are these pour extenders. You can get these at any Autobody supply store, or a lot of them have them. But it has a little crevice there, or a little indention where you can actually snap this onto your can, and then you're not having that, when you pour it, it's all going all over the place, dripping off the side, off the edge. These are cool. They're only about, I don't know, I think I paid $1 for these. I got a couple of them, but they just snap right in. You just push down there and just keep pushing all the way until it snaps in, and then it makes it a lot easier to pour. You're not, like I said, you're not having, especially on these full gallons, you're not having a big old mess where the can's leaking on the side and all that. So these little bottles of hardener, they have a little nipple. What you want to do is they're completely sealed, so you want to either poke a hole or cut it with a razor blade or something. But then you just flip it over and kind of just eyeball measure. These aren't they're not real accurate, but I mean it'll harden. So just get about a quarter of the bottle in there per quart. It's almost a quart right there. It's actually a little bit less than a quart, so I'll squeeze about a quarter of that bottle out into that liquid hardener into the primer. That should do it. And then like I said, I do put a little bit of especially because this stuff's real super thick, I do put a little bit of the urethane reducer. You can use acetone too, but I like to use urethane reducer. It's a little bit slower. So a little bit of urethane reducer in there. And this stuff's so thick, you do want to mix it real thoroughly. Kind of slow to start, and then kind of just mix it, keep mixing until it's completely mixed together. So that'll be your first pass or first coat or whatever, or it'll be probably half of your first coat or maybe a quarter of it. And then, like I said, come back, keep mixing. Don't just try to mix the whole thing or in the can or whatever. You'll have a mess. So when I come back, I'll show you how to put the primer on. So now I've waited about, 15-20 minutes. That's how much time. This stuff is actually wet on wet. You don't have to wait and sand and scuff and all that. You can actually put the primer on. There's a window of about an hour. This stuff will actually bond. The polyester primer will actually bond to the 2K sealer. So like I said, it's been about 20 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. What I'm gonna do first is cover all my bodywork areas and leave the bare metal areas alone. I'm not gonna primer those right away. So the first coat will be just just filler. I'll cover just a filler. Second coat will be the whole thing. And I'll probably put about 2 to 3 coats on this thing. But just to show you right now, this will probably be the end of the video. I gotta get this thing done. But just to show you right now, like I said, I'll put one coat on the the bodywork, and then I'll go ahead and come back, let that flash. What I mean by flash is let the solvents escape out of it. You always want to give it look up the flash time, or look for a tech sheet on any product you get, and look for the flash time and temperatures and things like that. You don't want to just put wet on wet on wet, because what'll happen is you'll trap solvents in there, and it can react in weird ways. So I'm gonna put one coat on, let it flash, which is about, right now in this heat, about maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll put another coat on after that. So I'm gonna get started. You can kind of see it. I'm gonna stop real quick and say something. I'm moving a lot slower because I really want to build up the coats. I really want to build up the layers. When you want to build something up, or when you want to actually, kind of, I call it pounding it on, but when you want to pound it on, actually slow down and make your coats a lot slower and make them even. You always want to go 50%. So wherever your pattern is, you always want to go 50%. Into the pattern and onto the next pattern. So half and half. So like I talked about the 6 inches, 3 inches will be still in the pattern, the previous pattern, and then 3 inches in the other pattern. So 50% on all the patterns. How's it going, everybody? So you just watched a video on how to primer your car after bodywork, or primer a car in general, or project, or whatever it is you're working on. So a couple of things I wanted to add, or a few things I wanted to add before I ended this video was, so first of all, always follow your manufactured recommended flash times, their dry times. When you buy your products, always make sure you ask for a tech sheet. A lot, like I said in the video, a lot of that stuff is online in PDF form. So if you have a product that you maybe bought from somebody, or whatever, you can go online and search that specific product, part number or name, and usually you'll find something online about that product, as far as they have downloadable tech sheets online. So make sure you follow the flash times, the dry times, time to sand if you have to sand the product. Always follow the recommended manufacturer's air pressure specs, mixing specs, application recommendations. Number two, always use your safety equipment, including your mask. Don't risk your health over, doing body work and paint. And I think most of all, after that, is have fun. I mean, I really enjoy doing these videos for you, and I hope you like them too. If you want to see more, I'm trying to upload at least one a week for now. I got other things going on as well. So, but hit the like and subscribe button, and share if possible. And I thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.